So here's a scale that we should all be familiar with. C major. Now why is this a C major scale? It starts on C, that makes it a C scale. Now it follows a pattern of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So that's the major scale pattern. So since it starts on C and it follows this pattern, that makes it C major. So what if I do this? I've created another scale derived from the C major scale. It's basically a C major scale, except it's starting and it's ending on the second scale degree, which would be D, right? Now, I can make even more scales by doing this, as seen here. 7 scales in total. So what do we call each one of these scales? Even though they use the same notes as a C major scale, we can't call these C major scales because none of them start on C and none of them follow this whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern. So, here are the names of these scales. If you get a C major scale and start it from the second scale degree, you get a Dorian scale, right? Now, it should be D Dorian because it starts on D, right? On the third scale degree, you get a Phrygian scale. E Phrygian because it starts on E. If you get on the fourth scale degree, you get a Lydian scale. F because it starts on F. And then fifth scale degree, Mixolydian. Sixth scale degree, you get Aeolian. And then seventh scale degree, you get Locrian. So, to go further into what these scales are, these can also be referred to as modes, or most specifically, the modes of the major scale. All modes are scales, but not all scales are modes. You'll notice that I interchanged the two words scale and mode. In this context, they basically mean the same thing. So, why do we have to know this? That's a really good question. The reason why is because these modes come up in music all the time. If you're a composer, you can use these modes to get really interesting sounds. Here's some examples of music that actually use these modes. Now, if you are a performer, it's still really good to know these modes. The reason why is because, as I've already said, these modes come up in music a lot. So if you practice each individual mode, and it's a lot of work, but it's pretty worth it because your muscle memory is going to be reinforced by this theory, and this will help you for when you're sight reading, and this will help you for if you're improvising. Okay, so with this knowledge, how do we identify a mode that we might come across in the music that we play? For example, let's say we're playing music and this comes up, right? You see this. Now, what mode is this? I don't know what mode this is yet. With a few steps, I can find out really easily. So step number 1 is you find how many sharps or flats are in this passage, associate it with the scale, and then write that scale down. So, which scale has 1 sharp? The answer is G major. So write out a G major scale. Alright, cool. We have a G major scale. Now, write out all the permutations of this scale until you come across this scale. Fortunately, within the first permutation of the scale, we have already come across the scale. Sharp. Yeah, we've already come across this scale. So now we have found the scale. What do we call this scale? So keep this chart out, right? We already have the order of the modes. So with that in mind, we can just put it in order here. So first mode be Ionian, and the second mode would be Dorian. And this is this mode that we are trying to identify, so we don't have to go down further. Okay, so we have a Dorian scale. Now it starts on A, it ends on A, so that would make it an A Dorian scale. So this scale would be an A Dorian scale. That's how you identify scales. So let's say that we're composing and now we want to produce a specific mode, right? So let's say that we're composing and we're in the key of B flat major, and you really like the Lydian sound, right? So you want to use a B flat Lydian scale. How are we going to come up with a B flat Lydian scale? So check this out. Right here for the Ionian, and this is an Ionian dash major, right? Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. We have a formula to create a C Ionian scale, right? So if you have this chart out, all you need to do is create a formula on each one of these, and then you can use that formula, apply it to a key, and then find out the mode that you're looking for in that specific key. So we wanted a B flat Lydian scale. So let's write it out. First, it would start with B flat, right? Now, Lydian, find out the formula, right? This would be a whole step, a whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, right? So now using this formula, go back here and produce the mode, right? Whole step from B flat, C. Whole step from C would be D. Whole step from D would be E. Whole step from, half step from E would be F. Whole step from F would be G. Whole step from G would be A. And then one more half step would be B flat. And just to make sure it's all good, it should be 3 whole steps, 1 half step, 2 whole steps, 1 half step. So and since I double checked my work, this is indeed a B flat Lydian scale.